right, welcome back, everybody. This is our weekly live that Charles and I do. We'll go live every week. We'll pull a deal out of either my own pipeline or Charles's pipeline, and we'll break that wholesale deal down from A to Z. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, what we learned from it, what we could have done better. And this week, it is on Mr. Standback. So you're good. How you doing today, Charles?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited to be back in the deal breakdown seat after a week off. What'd you end up doing for Memorial Day, man?
Memorial Day, nothing that I can remember. So just hung out. I know I did take the day off though. I was really good about that. I made sure to clear out my schedule. We didn't have anything. I can't remember what we did, but I know we did. We didn't work.
Something. Yeah. Sweet. That's
What
sweet.
about you? You do anything special?
I was in I was in Houston. Did a little Lake Conroe boat day on Memorial Day last week, so it was fun, man. Had a good time.
I love it. And I just saw you posted. I think today you won something in basketball.
Oh yeah, a little men's league chip, nothing too crazy. You know what I mean? When we step on the court, man, it's always gonna be a win. You know what I mean? So yeah, we got a little 9-0 undefeated season with the chip at the end. So it was a good time.
I love it. I see my buddy Tam Brandon. He says Mavs in 5, no doubt.
Mavs in 5. Yeah.
If there's no KP or if he gets injured early, it might be a sweep coming home. Might be a sweep.
Talking crazy now.
Yeah, it's that kind of year. But let's get into it, Charles. So we're gonna do a deal out of your pipeline. So
yep.
Let's jump into the question. So how did you even generate this lead? How did you figure out that this seller might be motivated to sell?
Well, funny enough, this is actually a lead that came from the man himself, Chris Crump, man. And he didn't know that.
Not like you owe me some money then.
This did come from Chris, man. It was I think it was somebody reached out to you about a deal in North Carolina that somebody else had, and you're just like, hey, this is North Carolina expert number one right here, and talk to him about it. And
if you're a JV partner of mine and you send me a North Carolina lead, 90% of the chance it's going to go to Charles to comp because he's local there. He knows the buyers. However, Charles is under review. We have to see what he did with this lead.
That's a fact. I am under review. We're going to talk about that.
I got this lead from somebody. I sent it over to you. I guess you ran comps on it, said not a deal. That lead probably got dismissed, and then it came back hit your desk again, or what happened?
Yeah, so when it came to me initially, it was from my guy Cash, who I don't know if he has Instagram or not. I've never asked him, but he had it locked up. It was a deal in Fayetteville where I've done a few deals. I have some good buyers in Fayetteville, but he just had it locked up too high, man. The house was in. Good on him though. He had great pictures. He had his agreement. I think this was his first deal that he ever did actually. So I was happy we were able to get it done. But yeah, he had it locked up too high, man. I think he had it locked up at $55,000 for cash, and all of the feedback that I was getting on it was, hey, this needs to sell at 45 or lower, right? So he needed to be basically 20. He needed to have this locked up like 20K lower than he did, and the seller just had no interest in moving on price, but he was motivated, right? So he wasn't interested in moving on price, but he did want to get rid of this house and was willing to talk about it. So once we established, hey, I ended up getting on the phone with the seller and telling him, hey, this is too high. You know what I mean? Like the house needs a ton of work. This isn't really going to work for us at this price. You probably need to be closer to here. He's like, absolutely not. No way I'm doing that. So I end up telling him, hey, the only way we can make this work for you is to buy this on terms, if you will.
Okay. So let me pause you there. So previous to me sending it, you had already received it from another wholesaler?
No. You sent this to me first. Like this all happened in after you sent it to me. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And then you got on the phone with the seller. What was his motivation to even consider selling? You said that he's pretty stern on price, but he definitely was motivated to figure out a way on how to sell it. So why was he so motivated?
Yeah. So his motivation came from Just he lived far, like it wasn't far to me, but he lived like 15 miles away or something. It was just like everything else I have is out here, and I don't want to go all the way into Fayetteville to be working on this or whatever. And he had like 12 properties, but he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. This particular place.
This is really good because you said it wasn't far from you, and this is something that we always need to keep in mind when we're negotiating on acquisitions. Everything is relative, right? So if they say my tenant hasn't paid in 5 days, and you're like, oh, the horror stories I hear, tenants haven't paid in 2 years. You're doing great. Don't put yourself in that seller's shoes. That 5 days could be the house is on fire for them. So 15 miles wasn't far for you, but for him, that might take him all day, depending on what his circumstances are. So pain in the butt for him. For you, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah,
a little bit too far from him. He's looking to liquidate, get rid of that one. You had the conversation. You can't come to a good price on cash. You needed about 20 to 25K lower. He doesn't want to do that, and so you say that he might be agreeable to terms. What do you mean by terms?
Yeah, so terms is basically him becoming the bank, if you will. He basically says, "Hey, I'll agree to this price if you pay me, this much down and this much every month for a certain number of years." So it's similar to what you would get from a bank. You just, it's the seller letting you make payments to them instead of giving them the entire, cash price upfront. They're getting it over time.
And why is that attractive for a seller, and why would it be attractive to you as a buyer or any buyer?
Yeah, I mean, for a seller, it's attractive because for a few reasons, right? They get to save on taxes. They don't have to pay this lump sum of cash in taxes up front. They get the price that they want. Generally, you get way more. You have way more wiggle room on purchase price when you do it this way. So he ends up getting a better price than we were even at before. He doesn't have to pay these taxes. And he gets to keep cash flow on a property that he doesn't have to manage. So those are the 3 biggest benefits I can.
So as opposed to that seller taking 25K cash, sometimes sellers are just married to a number. You can pay that out over 10 years. They're happy they're getting that number. So as opposed to him getting 25K in cash, is it 55K that you guys agreed to on a total purchase price?
65K. We got 10K more. Yeah.
So he's 40K over what he would have gotten cash. You're going to pay that over a number of years, which we'll talk about. But for that seller, it makes more sense that he can get 40K more. He can cash flow that every month and get a monthly payment. He now doesn't have to worry about fixing a roof or a toilet or anything like that. He truly is in the position of a bank. He's just collecting money on his asset. Okay, so you guys had that conversation, and then what is the benefit to a buyer? Why would a buyer not want to just pay cash and be done with it, as opposed to doing something like this?
Yeah, I mean, some would, right? But for most buyers, especially for houses like this, they need a lot of work. And the key to being a successful buyer, from what I've gathered, is keeping as much money in your pocket as you can. The less money you can put out in order to get an asset into cash flow, the better off you're going to be, right? So in this particular situation, instead of having to go $25,000, or they would have probably been paying $45,000 out of pocket and then having to put another 50, 60K into this house to get it where it needs to be, you're in a position now where you don't have to spend that 25K. You just have to spend whatever little down payment that you need to put down and a monthly payment that allows you to keep cash in your pocket that can go towards the renovations and increases your cash on cash return for that property. And depending on how well you negotiate, you can get better terms than you would. Like, most people are going to have to get a loan of some sort. Like, a lot of buyers do hard money for renovations or purchase price or whatever, and they're paying these crazy interest rates. You can kind of manage your interest rate a little better when you have when you dictate your own terms from the seller. So you get a lot more flexibility in terms of how you pay your seller and how much money is coming out of your pocket up front on these deals when you do them this way.
Yep. And the biggest point for this deal specifically is it wasn't a deal.
It wasn't a deal. Yeah.
So an investor was either going to pay cash and it not work because the seller wouldn't accept their offer.
Yep.
Lose the deal, or you can create a deal through these creative terms. So excellent job. So you guys begin the discussion on how he can, how you guys can set terms for him to finance it out to you, and how does that conversation go?
Yeah, so I mean, it was very it was kind of crazy up front, because this is where I determined that he actually did have motivation in all of this. Like, he's like, yeah, I mean, that's too low. And I mentioned terms to him, and he's like, well, I would consider that. Right. But, he wants to know what kind of terms we want to give him. Right. And so I always, want to start with the seller. He already knew about seller financing. He had done it before, so he wasn't new to the idea.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, you've done this before. Let me know what you're thinking on this. Right. And he gives me some, hey, I'm going to need at least, $5,000 or $10,000, probably $10,000 more on purchase price, because I'm going to give you, a certain amount of time. He wanted to do it for 3 years up front. He wanted, $700 a month or something like that. So he's looking at $65,000, for 3 years, $700 a month with a balloon payment is where he kind of started on this. Right. And so
aggressive. I don't know the entire deal, but sounds aggressive. With a 3-year balloon, we can't predict where the market's going to be in 3 years. So you want a balloon, and a balloon means that's when the total payment is due. So if Charles, agrees to paying $10,000 total, $100 a month, and a balloon is in 2 years, he'll pay $100 a month for 24 months. And then he has to pay the remaining amount when that balloon hits at the end of year 2. So right now the seller is saying, in 3 years, I want to be out. I want all money paid. And for an investor, 3 years is the absolute, well, in special cases maybe a little bit less, but in 3 years, that's like the max. Like there's no way it's going to be really hard to even make that a deal, but they're definitely not going any shorter. But yeah, 3 years, super aggressive. And he's wanting $700 a month. Sounds high. I don't know the property, but
it was high. It was high.
I'm sure he was high on his interest rate and his down payment as well. So kudos to the seller. He gave you some terms. That doesn't mean that's the nail in the coffin. Now we get to negotiate, knowing where you're starting. So that's where he begins to start. How does that conversation progress?
Yeah, so we go back and forth quite a bit, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. And when I tell you what ends up happening, don't pass out over there. But we end up getting it for. Can you still hear me? Okay. Okay. Yeah. We ended up getting it for $65,000. So I agreed to the purchase price. And he wanted I believe he wanted $10,000 down as well, right? So he wanted $65,000, $10,000 down. He didn't.
A general rule of thumb is about 10%. Purchase price should be what goes down at max, 10%.
Max, yeah.
So you should be at $6,500 maximum on a down payment. He wants $10K, so he's a little over there. But okay, continue.
Yeah, so he's a little over on what we'd be willing to pay as a down payment, and we end up getting this. I'm negotiating my pants off, bro. To be honest with you, because as this is happening, I'm putting feelers out for. What this may be, worth to the open market, like what we may be able to assign it for. And so I'm thinking at first, like maybe we'll be able to get 20K down, but, I realized pretty quickly that's not the situation that we're in here. That's not what's going to happen. So I end up negotiating him, and we had multiple conversations. Like at first I was telling him, hey, I think we can do 5,000 down. We're going to do, it's going to be more like, $300 to $500 a month. Right. And we need this for 10 years, right? And he's like, okay. Like he agrees. He's like, I'm not, terribly happy about it, but fine. But we end up negotiating all the way to $500 down, $500 a month, no interest. Wow. At the end of the day.
Wow, that is why they pay you the big bucks, Charles. That is 500 down, so you brought him down 9,500.
Yep. Yep, that's it. 500 down, 500 a month, 65,000, which led us for 10 years, which gives us it gives me a $5,000 balloon payment after 10 years.
Okay, so what do you think the monthly rent is here, so we can calculate the cash flow?
I mean, once it's fixed up, it's going to be around 11 or 1,200.
Okay, so 11 or 1,200. Throw in a couple expenses. You're probably cash flowing 300 pretty safely.
Yeah, safely 300 to 400. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, those are great terms for you. Okay, so you guys, you go back and forth, and that's important to highlight over these creative pitches and terms. It's not a one kill shot. This is my offer. Seller jumps up and down, really excited that you offered him $500 a month. No, it's several conversations several you backing it up with data and the research you have to show why you're pitching it this way and where you need to be, and making the seller understand it. So you guys find a happy medium, more to your side than his, it sounds like. But he's happy and agreeable. So what happens after you guys come to an agreement on those terms?
Yeah, so once we came to agreement on terms, it's just about getting this closed. So I have an attorney. So like Cash, this is his first deal, bro. He's just like, dude, I don't know what's going on. So, please handle this and just keep me up to date with what's going on. And this is one of those sellers that's a little anxious. I think he'd been worked by wholesalers in the past. So like he just really had he was cagey about doing it. He agreed to the terms, but he's like, wanted to make sure what's going to happen if you default and, all this type of stuff, which you should care about as a seller in this situation. So we did a lot of like, once we got the terms nailed down, we got an addendum, to Cash's original contract done. It still took a lot of like, he's like, going hard on us about the closing date. I was looking for 3 to 4 weeks. He's like 2 weeks, like stuff like that, where he's just like trying to make sure it's actually going to happen. Right. And this is in Fayetteville, and our attorney is in Rocky Mount, which is probably about an hour and some change away. So that had him a little, cagey as well. And we were trying to give him the option to, hey, you can do this virtually. We still have to close. That's the thing about creative deals. You always still want to go through a closing process with an attorney. He didn't want the deal to be in my name. He didn't want the deal to the deed to be transferred until it was completely paid off. I told him, hey, and this goes down to motivation again, guys. Like sellers will say anything, bro, but you have to be willing to, at least give them some type of pushback, some honest pushback about, hey, we don't do business like that. We don't get the tax benefits if that deed doesn't transfer. We don't have the type of control over that we need if the deed doesn't transfer, right? He's like, you're right, fine. You know what I mean? But I want work to be started on that house in 60 days. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I did have to fold on some like random addendum terms in order to get this thing to the finish line, right? But we ended up over the next like 2 to 3 weeks. He went on vacation, so we got about a week extension on this. But the attorney is just putting together the paperwork, making sure title's clear, and getting ready for a regular closing, man. And eventually, Cash and the seller made that drive to Rocky Mount to close, and he had a $500 check waiting for him at the closing table.
I love it. So let's talk about a few things. One, do you know how Cash generated that lead? Was it cold call, or do you have any idea?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. I mean, the guy had a sign out front, so he might have just called the for sale by owners sign number. I'm not sure exactly, but it was either that or cold calling. I think those are the two things that he mainly does. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. And was this property? It was vacant.
Oh yeah, definitely vacant. Need a lot of work, so it wasn't. It's not moving ready. Somebody's gonna have to put 20-30K in there to get a renter in there for sure.
Okay, so you go all the way to the closing table with the seller. He comes, signs the agreement. Are you there? You get to meet him?
No, I didn't go.
No. Okay. So he signs all his documents, signs the property over to you. Are you now working on the property, or what's that looking like?
Yeah. So I bought it. I paid Cash a $3,000 assignment fee.
So why buy it rather than you structure creative terms, some attractive ones, good enough for you to want to take down? Why not wholesale it and just find a buyer, get in and out?
It was a weird kind of. I talked to a few people about it, and I think people were a little afraid of the amount of work that it needed, right? Like people that wanted it didn't really want to put anything up front for it. And I'm sure I could have found a buyer, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking on this, hey, this is going to cost me $500 a month, right? Which, isn't going to kill me. And I'm thinking wrap, right? When I see this deal, right? It's not in the best area of Fayetteville, but it's in a good enough area to where somebody's going to want to buy this house and fix it up. So when I see it, I'm thinking this can probably be wrapped, in all honesty. And I think also I had a couple of buyers where the timing just was off, like the quickness with which we needed to close. They just weren't, on the same, that kind of stuff happens sometimes. Like you're not always going to be completely in tune timing wise with your buyers. So I did try to sell it up front to a buyer. And then it kind of got close to closing. And I was just like, look, I'm just going to close on this and, take it from there, sell it after.
You said that it might be an ideal candidate for a wrap. Can you explain to our audience what a wrap is?
Yeah. So a wrap is basically me financing it to someone else after it's been financed to me, right? So you're wrapping another mortgage around your own. So I got it for $65,000 and I paid $500 down and $500 a month. I will try to sell it now for $75,000 or $80,000 and get $5,000 or $10,000 down and more than that every month. So I'll get to get, at least my money back and maybe a little bit of profit from a down payment up front. And I'll get to make the arbitrage in terms of cash flow from what I pay my seller to what the end buyer pays me. And I'm not responsible for repairs. I'm not responsible for maintenance. I'm not responsible for taxes, insurance, any of that. So that's the beauty in wraps.
Love it. Okay. So is that your exit plan? What are you going to do now?
Yeah. So I've got I this is crazy, bro, because this house is in my name now and I've never seen it. I've never been to it. I've only seen pictures, you know what I mean? So, but I put it on Facebook Marketplace as a seller finance deal. And I had probably 50 people reach out to me about it. And I'm working on terms with somebody right now she wants to put down a $750 option deposit for her to be able to take a couple of weeks to get some quotes and whatnot, to get some work done. And she's going to end up paying me about $5,000 down. And she actually is going to end up paying about $1,200 a month to me to get it done. And I'm doing it at 5% interest. I'm making it very it's my first time doing this. So I wanted to make it attractive. Like that's a better rate than you're going to get even at a bank, which is probably frowned upon when you're doing deals like this. But I'll end up making, I got an extra $10K on the purchase price. So I'll make $10K in actual profit from that. And then I'll make probably another $10 to $15K, depending on how quickly she pays it off, in interest payments and interest money.
The ways you're going to profit off of this deal, you said she's bringing $5K or how much to closing?
Yeah, so she'll probably bring $5K to closing, which will give me all my money back. So after it was all said and done and I closed on it, I had spent about $5,000, right? So I'll get all my money back from closing on this, paying an assignment fee, closing costs of $500 to the seller at the closing table, and then I'll be able to cash flow, probably about $500 to me every month.
Your returns are infinite after that.
Yeah.
So then you're going to get a cash flow of $500 a month where you're now a lender. No worries on the property. You just got to make sure you have a good buyer so they don't foreclose. But okay, so yeah, you're cash flowing now, and then you created $10K of equity in that wrap mortgage. So you're going to get $10,000 by the end of that balloon while you cash flow $500. This is why everybody loves wraps so much, is because there's a ton of families who don't qualify for traditional mortgages. They still need a home. They still make great money. It's just not necessarily a W-2. Maybe it's some kind of skilled labor, and they've got plenty of money saved up where they're looking for homes just like this. And so you were able to provide an opportunity, one, for your seller to get out at a price he was comfortable with, and two, for now a family to move into a home, fix it up, and move into a home, and they're still getting it at a fair price, and maybe even more fair to them than to you. But kudos to you for taking the action and saying, I might not be doing this the most profitable way, but I know there is profit there, and I'm willing to learn and fail forward. So that's awesome. Okay, so you're reviewing her application and some other people. So is that where you're at with it right now?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of reviewing, what she's got and what she's, bringing to the table, making sure she'll be able to make these payments. And man, I think it's going to be we'll have to do a part 2 on this once I actually get it wrapped officially. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty good deal, bro, at the end of the day. And the interesting thing about this was the guy has multiple properties, and, Cash was, he was very dude, and we've all been in this situation before, but it made me think of, I forget my guy's name, who had that guy that he'd been talking to for 2 years, and now he sells him a property every year or something like that. Kyle. Yeah. Right. So it reminded me of this, because he's like, dude, I want to get this one done because he has multiple properties, and I know he'll continue to work with us if we can finally get this done, because so many people have done him wrong at this point. So it opened up the door for more and more profit, down the line. Yes, I'll make money on this in not a traditional way for me, but Cash is going to be willing to bring those other deals that this guy, has to me as well, because I was able to get this closed for him and make sure it was done right. So it was a very I think it's going to end up being a multi-deal transaction that we make a good amount of money on, man.
And this is exactly why we should never look at a lead, a deal, a relationship, a buyer, a seller as a transaction. It's a relationship that you should foster. Whether you bring that deal to the finish line or not, you should, maintain your integrity and professionalism throughout that deal so they can continue to send you deals. You were able to get it closed. They now see that, the proof of concept that if they come to you, they can get it done. Yep. And that relationship, because Cash took care of it, you took care of Cash, is be more fruitful than just one deal. So yeah, that's really awesome. What's your biggest takeaway from this deal?
Man, my biggest takeaway is the power. I mean, it'll be more like once I can actually get it done. But I really kind of gave this away at better terms than when I end up wrapping this, I'm gonna give it away at a perfect rate for people, bro. Like, they're gonna get a good deal on this. Right? The end buyer, the end buyer's getting a good deal on this, bro. So I think I really have heard about it so much, but I've never seen it done. And so my biggest takeaway is just like, people really do buy houses like this. Like, there are a lot of people out there that can't qualify for a regular mortgage, that have the money, that are willing to do a lot of work on a house to make it what they want, to live in it. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. Like, these deals are possible, right? These wrap deals are possible. I haven't finished it yet, but I can tell that this is going to be a pretty good deal, man, where I get to, cash flow more than most people make on an average rental, bro, and have no, responsibility for taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, right? So it just shows me the power of a wrap, and the power of like motivation for a seller. You know what I mean? A seller's first price, or a seller's, first list of terms that they want, mean nothing at the end of the day, right? If they really do want to get rid of that house, man, you can negotiate your way to a deal that can work for both of you, and leave them with less stress and leave you with a good deal. I mean, those are probably the two biggest things I've known that, right? But it's always going to be reminded that throughout this process. So those are probably the two biggest takeaways for me. What do you think, man?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is accountability and keeping a good network, because I'm learning through this deal from you. You're somebody I keep very close to me. I learn a lot from you, and at the same time, both you and I, we try new things, and we share it with each other, and we learn from each other. I haven't done a wrap, and I'm listening and learning from your experience, and it's cool because you get to shortcut my failures now. You might hit a bump in the road, or do something really smooth, and when I go and do a wrap, I'm now going to be able to lean on you and ask you questions. Whether they're good or bad, you're going to learn from it and be able to steer me in the right direction. And that's what real estate is all about. Who, not how. I don't have to go and learn it and figure out how it works. I now have the who, which is Charles, who helped me in that experience. So that's my biggest takeaway is, you need to have people that are in the business close to you. You need to be learning from them, sharing your wins and losses, and getting that back from those people, because you can shortcut your learning so much quicker.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see how it turns out, man. I wanted to back out of this thing. Like, I got cold feet early and was like, man, I don't want to do this. Like, I've never done this before. And it's just like, that's the feeling that you have to lean into. When you start feeling like that, it means you need to do it, right? If you start feeling like, this is new for me, it's making me uncomfortable, right? That's what you got to lean into, because it's the only way to get better. I would have never known how to do it if I didn't do it, right? I would have never learned the ups and downs of this experience if I didn't just jump out there and go for it, right? And I had very little risk, I felt like, in this at the end of the day. So, bro, I'm excited. And we'll definitely do a part 2 on this once I can actually get it, get it wrapped and start cash flowing every month. And we'll see how it turns out. But I got high hopes, brother.
I love it. And that uncomfortableness that you're feeling for our audience who is a newer investor or wholesaler or even thinking about jumping into it, that's a feeling that we get all the time. Majority of our journey is super uncomfortable. Charles and I are about to start doing content, and I had to start my videos on Sunday. It was uncomfortable for me to look into my phone screen and then just start talking, and then those videos will be out eventually. That's a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I understand the bigger picture, and that's just part of it. We're not growing if we're not getting uncomfortable. So, yeah, huge kudos to you, bro. I'm really proud of you, and can't wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah, and let me know how my review turns out. I know I'm on a review of the Easy Dispo board, so please let me know if I owe any.
I think you passed. You said a $3,000 assignment fee. I just didn't hear about it, so that's the only thing. I want to know these things so I can be happy for the other guy too.
Absolutely. That's what.
When did you close?
Last week or 2 weeks ago. In the last couple of weeks, yeah.
Cool.
But it was probably like from the time you sent me that first email. I guess it was probably a month or a month and a half or something before we actually were able to get it done. But yeah, it was cool, bro. It was cool. And somebody else was involved in the middle there too. It was this is so many tag teams to get this done. So it just shows the power of a network, man.
Yeah. A lot of people getting paid is a good thing. All right, bro. Well, you're the man. I appreciate you. Next Monday, we'll be on with Diego Cevezos. He's out of Lubbock. He's a superhuman in a community that both you and I are in, and we wholesaled a deal out in Lubbock for $25,000. It's one that I recently posted last week, so it'll be a really good one. I'm excited. But we'll be on at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to move it up an hour early. We might stick to that here in the future, but anything else you want to share, Charles?
Hey, man, keep dialing, keep talking to people, keep trying. Do not give up. You cannot fail if you don't quit. Love you guys, man.
I love it.